What's up, y'all? Sorry I'm late. I was over there yelling at El Teddy, child. I was over on El Teddy channel yelling at him. I'm sorry I'm late. We're gonna get this party started. Let me turn the light on. Child, I didn't realize I was sitting in the dark. Hold on. I realized I was sitting in the dark. I didn't realize I didn't have all my lights on. Hold on, let me get my light on. Hey China White. I'm on my way. Sorry about that, y'all. Sorry that I was running late, honey. Running late. Here we go. What's up, y'all? We are back to talk about Big Girls Don't Cry. Oh, these are my notes. Hold on, let me take my notes off here. By Connie Briscoe. So I hope everyone is doing well. I hope everybody is good to go. So we are talking about chapters 8 through 12. Oh, shoot. Yeah. Um. Yeah. Okay. 8 through 12. Okay. So we left off when we found out that Naomi's friend Debbie got pregnant, right? That's what we left off talking about, Debbie getting pregnant. Naomi talked to her, and they had a good time for a little bit. It was almost like old times between the two of them, like that, right? Let me get to the chat. Yeah, that's my book club intro, right? You like it? Yeah, that's my book club intro, child. So when she actually ended up having a conversation with her mom. Of course, her mom was not happy to hear about Debbie being pregnant, and her mom let her know, listen, Debbie's life is not going to be the same. Like, she's not going to be able to do the same things that you're going to do. She has a child now. Remember, this is the 1960s. So even in the 2000s, it ain't always easy, but certainly it's a lot easier now for a high school girl to have a child than it was back in the 1960s. And so she said, listen, yeah, she'll be able to go to college and all of that, but it's going to be a lot different. It's going to be a lot harder, and it's going to be delayed. It's not going to look like it's going to look for you. So, of course, this may, hold on. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm a snag a piece. You mind? Y'all got to know? Pat, you got enough for me to snag a piece? Oh, okay. I got to cook when I get off here anyway. Okay, so she ended up having a really good conversation with her mom, though, about colorism and classism, because her mom said to her, like, it was good to see, you need to be a really good friend to Debbie. And she started explaining to her mother how Debbie was saying that she um that she hadn't really talked to Debbie, and how Debbie was saying how things were different since she started hanging out with Jennifer. And her mother asked her some hard conversations, and like, was, listen, have you been why do you think that Jennifer doesn't like Debbie? And she said that she didn't want her mom to have a bad impression of Jennifer, so she didn't say too much because she didn't want her mother to think that it was about colorism. But I mean, her mother already feels like it's colorism or classism at the very least, right? So hold on, y'all. Let me do a favor. Hold on. Okay. And so, um, it was a good conversation because again, we talked about this in the last one. Those are very real issues, especially in the Black community, especially when you talk about the middle. Especially when you talk about middle class Black folk, 1960s. All of these are very valid issues of colorism and classism and all that good stuff. So that was a really good conversation she had with her mom. And so she said basically after that point, she was very cold on letting Merlin, her boyfriend, do a little too much, too soon, too fast kind of thing. But eventually, things went back to normal. Just like regular kids, we scared for a minute, or people in general, I should say. Something happens that scares us for a minute, and then after we get over being scared, we go right back to doing what we was doing. And so things was starting to get a little, once again, get a little hot and heavy between her and Merlin, until one day she was over Jennifer's house and she met Jennifer's brother Ralph. Baby, she met Jennifer's brother Ralph, baby, and fell in love. Head over heels in love. And Ralph was interested in her too. He liked her too. And Jennifer tried to tell her, look, my brother ain't about it. Okay, my brother's a player. He got 20, 30 women calling his house looking for him all the time. And he was already a freshman at Morehouse. And so of course that was exotic to her. She was a high school, looking forward to whatever. And she's, this guy that's in college interested in her. So baby, she dumps Merlin and starts dating Ralph. Now, remember, Jennifer told her Ralph won't about nothing. But baby, she started dating him anyway. They got real hot and heavy. And by the end of the summer, she once again was being faced with whether she was going to go all the way with him or not. And so she ends up talking to, she forgot about her boyfriend completely. Jennifer did want her child. Jennifer tried to tell her. Jennifer tried to tell her. So she ended up, like I said, they ended up dating. By the end of the summer, right before he was getting ready to go away to school, she decided, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do this. She was like, she felt like she had all that she needed. She had all the protection, yada, yada, yada. And she decided she gonna go ahead and let him do it. So they go out to a nice restaurant on the last night, and his last night before he left for school, or right before he was leaving for school. And and then they end up going to a nice little secluded park, because he ain't take her to no hotel or nothing, child. And they did what they do. It was very underwhelming for her. Okay, she was not impressed. She was underwhelmed by the whole thing. And which a lot of people, for their first time, it was very underwhelming, very much so. What's up, Lady V? Hey, boo. And she was late for curfew, but she didn't care because of course she was on the moon. She was in the stars, in love with her boyfriend, and yada yada yada. They end up coming home late from, she misses curfew, and she gets home and all the lights are lit up and her parents are there, and she's like, oh man, I'm about to get in trouble because I done missed curfew. I know I'm about to get it. And she said as soon as she gets there, her father pulls her into his arms and he starts crying, and he's like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're home. So I'm so glad you're home. And she was like, all of this because I missed curfew? Like, what's going on? Come to find out, some bad news came through. Her brother had actually been killed in a car accident. He was up in Chicago. He was going to Northwestern, and there was a car accident. Dean was with him, and two other people that the family did not know, another young lady and a guy. And that is where part one of the book ends. So part one of the book ends at that point, and then we fast forward 4 years, 5 years. Hold on. We fast forward to night ago. We the next section is from 1971 to 1975. So we fast forward like 5 years because we fast forward through the rest of her high school, and then we go. She's a sophomore in college when we meet back up with her. We missed her whole freshman year in college, and she's now a sophomore. Is she a sophomore? And Ralph is now in medical school. So we fast forward. I chuckled when she was talking about him breathing all heavy when the herb hadn't moved at all for her. Right, exactly, girl. She was underwhelmed, okay, and very much so. Yes, it broke my heart too. When I read this book the first time, the first time I read the book, I was like, what? Now, when we fast forward, we meet back up with Naomi. She is a totally different Naomi, right? She's a Naomi that doesn't care about her appearance. Remember, Naomi was always, had the latest fashion. She wanted to open up her own boutique. She made all her clothes. She kept the cute haircut and stuff. But we meet back up with her. She done cut all her hair off. She got a little afro. Her parents didn't even complain. And remember how big of a deal they made about her brother even wearing a dashiki, much less getting his hair and letting his hair grow out to an afro. She talked about how she just wears, jeans and t-shirts all the time and doesn't even really bother about, really keeping herself together. She talks about how, she really struggled through the rest of high school and how her family, her father and her mom were even, sort of just going through things until one day her father was like, okay, we need to get it together. Like, we're going to come up out this funk. You're gonna get your grades together and we're gonna get our lives together. Like, we gotta keep living. We can't live like this. And honestly, in today's world, what Naomi described is probably what we would call depression today. She went through a depression and she didn't really get, again, in today's world, I would like to think that her family would have maybe gotten some therapy. But of course, we talk about the 1960s, early 1970s, and people, much less the Black community, that just wasn't something that they did, right? Not on a general basis. And so she's, going through the motions. She's going through the motions of figuring it all out, and we found out that she didn't end up going to Cornell. She went to a school in Atlanta. They made up a school, child, but it's a white school in Atlanta. And Ralph is actually at Morehouse, and he's actually in medical school at Morehouse. Now, what's interesting we found out about Ralph is probably what we would call today a damn Republican, right? He wasn't very political. He was very anti, he was like, listen, he wanted to go to Harvard. He couldn't get into Harvard, so that's why he ended up in Morehouse. It wasn't his first choice. He wanted to go to Harvard or Yale. And it sounds like he couldn't get in for medical school either because he ended up going to Morehouse for medical school, and he had already told Naomi that he had planned to go to Harvard or Princeton or Yale or something for medical school. So what that says to me is not only could you not get in for undergrad, but your grades probably weren't good enough. And I shouldn't say just his grades, because again, we are dealing with, hell, it's hard for a Black person to get into those schools now, so much less in the late 1960s. So I can't say it's all about him being Black. But he didn't. He was still in Morehouse. So she went to Atlanta, probably chasing behind Ralph, right? They're still together, but we meet up with Naomi as she's on her way to Ralph's house to go see him. We found out that they don't even go out on dates anymore. They just get food and bring it back to his house because he tells her he's too busy studying because he is in medical school and he is busy and he don't have time to be taking her out on dates, child, okay? He don't have time. Now, she actually ends up, I'm just going to tell y'all I can't stand Ralph. Child, can't nobody stand Ralph. Didn't I tell you? I told y'all last week. I said, y'all gonna be so mad when y'all get to the college years because I wanted to just jump through this book and shake the shit out of Naomi, my damn self, right? I wanted to shake her and be like, girl, snap out of it. Get it together, So that's what I wanted to do. But of course we didn't do that. So she's on her way to go see Ralph, and who does she run into? She runs into Dean. Now she said that she hadn't seen or heard from Dean since her brother died. Dean was in the hospital, and he was so hurt after the car accident he couldn't even come. He was still in the hospital, and he couldn't even come to the hospital. I mean, he couldn't even come to the funeral. So, and then after that, he sort of disappeared, and we find out from Dean that after the accident, he just sort of drifted around. He said he felt very guilty. That's survivor's guilt. When your best friend, when you and your best friend are in a car accident or in some sort of accident and one dies and the other one doesn't, there's that survivor's guilt. And again, probably could have used some therapy, right? But he said that he dropped out of school and then he sort of kind of just, wandered around from place to place for a couple of months, for a couple of years. He said he would go back to DC to check on his mom and his sisters, and then he would kind of go back out in the world and do his own thing. But he was finally starting to settle down. He was enrolled in Morehouse as well. He was majoring in economics, and he was still very much an activist. He was still an activist. They both of them kind of shared a moment about her brother. Seeing Dean was a breath of fresh air. It was. Listen, again, when I read this book for the first time, I was so happy when she saw Dean, right? I was so happy when she saw Dean. And again, they get to talking, and he tells her he's going to be having a protest, and he invites her to the protest, and so they kind of leave it at that. And she goes on to Ralph's house. She gets to Ralph's house, and like I said, we meet up with Ralph again, and he's an ass. Okay, very quickly we realize how much of an ass he is. What's up, Tracy? Hey, boo. I know you was over there, El Teddy. You fine, child. Listen, you fine. I'm just trying to keep to my schedule. I told y'all we're going to do book club on Monday. I'm just trying to keep to my book club schedule because y'all know me. I'll move on. Y'all know I'll forget and be like, what? I did what? So, but girl, we talking about Dean and Naomi, honey. So, Ralph and Naomi, because we was talking about Dean. We're going to get back to Dean now. But we're going to talk about Miss Ralph and Naomi. Now, we found out that Ralph is living off campus with two other roommates in a house off campus. We meet another one of the Pamela, who's another one of the roommates' girlfriends, and we find out that the roommate is cheating on Pamela. And Dean tells her mind her business. It don't have nothing to do with her. What Keith does with Pam don't have nothing to do with what we got going on. Mind your business, okay? I think I missed something because I thought her brother died at the rally demonstration. No, her brother, they were on their way to a rally. He died in a car accident. And that's one of the things that Naomi talked about was about because that's what she. So the other thing that we found out is that she's developed this hatred for white people, right? And part of her hatred for white people is racism, because she said, had it not been for racism, my brother wouldn't have been in that car on his way to a rally to protest. Like, there would be no need for him to protest, which means that my brother would have been fine. He would have never gotten an accident. He would have never got hurt, right? We also found out that because of her grief, for the most part, all she talks about is her brother. And it has kind of alienated her from all of her friends and really Ralph. Ralph is like, you used to be fun. What happened to you? You used to take care of yourself. Look at you. You don't keep yourself up anymore. Like, I want the fun Naomi back. I want the girl that I first met back. And she was like, but I'm not her anymore. The girl you met, brother hadn't been killed. I'm not her anymore. And again, therapy, y'all. Therapy. Okay. It's okay, boo. And again, I just think that looking at this with a 2022 mindset, it's so clear that so many people in this scenario could have used some therapy, right? Starting with Naomi, starting with her parents, starting with Dean. Well, not starting, but going through to Dean. Like, all of them could have dealt with some therapy to process what happened to them. So, like I said, we found out that Ralph don't even take that child out to a date. They hook up, they eat, they have sex, she go back to her dorm, right? It doesn't seem like there's any level of affection or anything. I feel like both of them, and Naomi won't admit it until much later, but including Naomi, both of them are just in this. They're going through the motions. They're in it because it's their safe space, not necessarily a love match, or not like they're passionately in love. Like, they don't even enjoy sex with each other. Like, Naomi still ain't figured out that there's more to it, and he doesn't really. He says she's not into it. So even things like that, like, they're just literally just going through the motions, right? Ralph needs to understand what grief does to people. Their family was close, so it was a great loss. Absolutely, it was a very big loss. Absolutely. The other thing we find out that's going on with Naomi, again, because of her hatred of, black people at this time, white people at the time, she's having problems in class. She has a professor in her statistics class that she feels is racist and sexist. He makes comments about left brain, right brain. He makes comments about what men do better than women. He doesn't call on the women in class. He only calls on the guys in class unless absolutely positively nobody else will answer a question. And it's really bothering her from a point of view of, like, I know I'm not the best math student, but damn, like, he makes it seem like, we just ain't no good for nothing, right? Pamela, who is Keith's girlfriend, is also in that class. So she said, I know Pamela, but we ain't friends. We ain't tight like that, but we are in the class together. So she goes one day in class. She said she worked really hard on her homework, made sure she had all the right answers, and she kept raising her hand in class, and he would not call on her. Even when her hand was the first one up and the only one up, he would not call on her. He eventually called on Pam at the end of class. And so when class was over, Pam comes up to Naomi and says, listen, girl, I saw what he did just there. Like, I saw what he did. And she was like, yeah, like, that's messed up. He's terrible. Like, he's racist. He's sexist. Like, what the hell? And she said, yeah, but the only reason why he called on me is because I complained. Like, I went and I complained on him. So they must have talked to him. So I guess that was his way of responding, is that he's going to call on me to answer one question at the end of class. So she invites Pam. She said, maybe I should talk to Dean about this. Like, Dean knows what to do about stuff like this. So she decides she's going to go to the rally. Because, of course, she asked Ralph. And Ralph was like, yeah, nah, that ain't my thing. I ain't political. I don't get into politics like that. That ain't my stilo. So they decide to go to the rally, and Dean to talk to Dean. So they sit through the rally or whatever. And when the rally was over, Dean, Dean and Naomi went to go talk. They went to a little coffee shop to talk. Now Pam didn't stay because, child, this was the thing right here. Naomi little slick tail, she got mad because Pam didn't want to stay and talk to Dean about what they could do about this professor. So Naomi decides that she's going to drop this bomb on, Pam and tell her that Keith been cheating on her. I said, now, Naomi, you a snitch. That was not your place or your time. You was snitching. So of course Pam was like, oh, hell no. You said he doing what? So Pam was like, I really ain't going now because I gotta go confront Keith and find out what's going on. And of course Naomi was like, don't say anything because Rob told me not to say nothing to you and he gonna be mad. Well, girl, you should have thought about that before you told that woman her man was cheating on her. What was she supposed to do? You really thought that was gonna make her decide to go with you to the coffee shop with Dean? Anyway, so Pam goes off to confront Ralph, and Naomi goes with Dean. And they go to a little coffee shop, and they continue their conversation about her brother and all of that. And she got to know a little bit more about her brother. She found out that the girl that was in the car with her brother, they were actually in a relationship. They had been dating, that she was local. She wasn't a student at Northwestern, and she was local to Chicago. She found out that, and Dean gave her some tips on what she should do. And he's trying to get her to understand, listen, you need to figure out, like, it sounds like this professor's an asshole, right? But you need to figure out how far you're going to push this. You need to figure out what you're willing to sacrifice. Like, it could come down to expulsion. It could come down to suspension. And she was like, why would I be kicked out of school? He's the one that is, treating us bad. And he was like, yeah, but at the end of the day, the university is going to stand by their professor. Like, it's wrong, and I'm sorry to tell you that, but they're going to stick by their professors. Like, so you have to be ready. You have to be ready for the university to not have your back. Bless you. You have to be ready for the university to not have your back. Like, you have to understand that it might not go the way you want it to go. And Naomi was like, okay, I understand. He was like, so you need to think about it. Think about it for a couple of days and then let me know what you want to do. And whatever you decide to do, I got you. I will help you, right? So when they get done, he asked Naomi, "Are you seeing anybody?" And she was like, "Well, yeah, I actually am seeing somebody." And he was like, "Dang, I'm sorry to hear that. You let me know if that changes." So Dean is letting Naomi know, "Okay, I know you brother, little sister, but I'm kind of seeing you in a different light, and I'm down for it. If you down for it, let's be down together." So he ends up right, yeah, especially yeah, exactly. China White, them tenure professors, even now in 2022, like they damn near gotta kill somebody in front of the class. You know what I'm saying? Before anything happened to them. So even in today's world, a tenure professor, it's a lot, and I don't agree with it necessarily. I agree with people having some job security. Like I don't believe in at will employment because I think that management can take advantage of an at will situation, but I also don't believe that just because you're tenured or you have some sort of tenure that means that the bar is set so high that you feel invincible and you can do whatever you want. Like there has to be a medium. There has to be some sort of happy medium. And this is coming from somebody that's been tenured in my job. And I'm being honest, if I'm being honest, I have probably reaped the benefits of knowing that it would take a whole lot for you to fire me. You know what I'm saying? Um, but on a college level, the bar is way higher on a college level than in a public school level. Like there's some jobs, I mean, we have a union and all of that, but it's way, way, way like it's on a whole nother level when we start talking about tenure professors. So anyway, so Dean ends up giving Naomi a ride to Ralph's house because they were supposed to be going out, going to get something to eat, or she was going over his house or whatever child they was gonna do. And Naomi gets there and she sees Ralph's car. So she's like, "Oh, well, Ralph is here." Knock on the door. Keith answers the door. Now, Pam is standing behind Keith. So Naomi is a little confused, like, "Well, what is Pam doing here? Because I thought she was going to come up here and cuss this man out. Like, well, what's going on here?" And she was like, "Let me in." And Keith wouldn't let her in. He was like, "Ralph not here." And she was like, "His car's out there. What you mean he not here? His car's here." And he was like, "Well, he's not here." And Pam is standing behind Naomi telling her, "Girl, like giving her the, you know." So exactly, birds of a feather. And listen, and karma is a you done snitched, you done told on Keith to try to get Pam to do what you wanted her to do. And now but now Pam had her back though. Pam let her know, "Girl, you better get your ass up the steps." So Naomi ends up pushing past Keith, child. She gets to the top of the steps and she catches Ralph in the act. Okay, in the act. And of course, she runs out and she's so hurt and she goes to her room and she's in her room for the rest of the weekend. She, just depressed. And of course, this is before the days of cell phones and all that. So it wasn't like, she just was in her room depressed, child. Pam comes to check on her on Sunday. And Pam tells her, Pam gives her the little one-on-one. She said, "Yeah, that's a chick. Her name is Marlena. She go to Spelman. She pre-med or she's in medical school. And I think she even called Jennifer. Either Pam gave her this information or Jennifer did. But Jennifer was like, 'Girl, I tried to tell you my brother won't shit. Like, you ain't want to listen to me, but I tried to tell you, girl.' So Pam gives her the one-on-one and said, "Yeah, she been coming around for a minute. Like that wasn't no one-time thing. Like she been coming around, and this is who she is, child. This is who she is, okay?" So Pam tells her, "Listen, let's do the protest." Because she told Pam what Dean had said about what they need to do and how it's going to be hard and are they willing what they're willing to do. And so they both agreed that they wasn't willing to get expelled, right? They weren't going to get expelled, but they were willing to take a little tap on the wrist if it was going to be for the greater good. They also decided it was Jennifer. Okay, China, thank you, baby, because I couldn't remember if it was her or Jennifer, but Jennifer had all the information. Thank you, baby. But once again, Jennifer was unapologetic because Jennifer was like, "Girl, I told you, I told you my brother won't shit." Like, and I can respect Jennifer from the point of view of he's my brother, you're my friend. I warned you, and now I'm out of it. Whatever happens, happens. Like, I respect how Jennifer handled it. I do. Because it's hard when you're in the middle of that and you know what's going on, but you warned her. You gave her all the information she needed. And whether she chose to listen or not, maybe that you can't control that. You can't control it. That's on her. So they decided that they would come at it from a sexist point of view rather than racist, because it was a predominant, they weren't at a HBCU, they were at a white college, PWI, and they figured they would get more support if they came at it from Jennifer told her child, if they came at it from a sexist point of view rather than a racist point of view, it made them more support. So they went out. Unfortunately, it was snowing the day. No, let me rewind. I missed something. So Dean, they actually got Dean to help them. So they end up, Dean gave him a ride to the store to go get the supplies, and they made the posters and the flyers, and they did all of this. And it kept her mind off of Ralph, even though it had been the whole weekend and Ralph hadn't come to call her. He didn't come looking for her or none of that. But it kept her mind off of Ralph. It kept her preoccupied. And Pam even picked up on the fact that Dean was interested. And she was like, Dean, that's my brother's friend. And she was like, he ain't just your brother's friend, girl. He trying to be your friend. You playing games, and he not. He's serious, okay? Y'all, you playing, okay? And they get to so that I believe it was like whatever day they decided to have the protest. It was snowing, so they didn't really get a lot of turnout. So they had it a couple of days. They protested a couple of days. And honestly, they got a little bit of a crowd, but it wasn't as significant as it needed to be. They got a lot of people that were like, yeah, it's about time somebody did something about that professor. Yeah, that professor ain't about this, and yeah, that professor ain't about that. But not a whole lot of people joined in. Listen, we still deal with the same thing now. We get a whole lot of people that talk about something ain't right, something ain't fair, until you tell them you need them to show up and do something about it. Then don't nobody have nothing to say, child. What's up, Keisha? How you doing? So finally, Ralph shows up. And Ralph wants to take her out, and he's so apologetic. And of course, he lying, talking about that this woman been after him since freshman year, and he just gave in, and it was just that one time, and he's so sorry. And I'll be honest with y'all, it's a book, so I ain't trying to dig too deep. But I don't even understand why Ralph, he clearly wasn't interested. And Marlena was closer to what it was he was looking for. So I guess on some level he did have some real feelings towards Naomi, because even when I was reading the book the first time, I was like, why did he even bother? Like, you got away. Like, she left you, she broke up with you, she ain't called you. I felt like you were off the hook, I should say. But I guess, sometimes it's about getting what you can't have, right? Or her not being the one to say goodbye, you being the one to say goodbye. Sometimes it's an ego thing. But I was really wondering why he pushed the issue. I was like, why are you pushing the issue when clearly you're not interested, But anyway, child, so that is pretty much where that's the end of chapter 12. That's the end of chapter 12. Yeah. Yeah, that's the end of chapter 12. Let me make sure. Hold on, I'm right at the end. Okay. And Pamela is now flirting with Dean. Now, Pam says she didn't break up with Keith because she ain't had no in her face proof that Keith denied it. And she was like, I love my man. I need my man. And until it's in my face, I ain't going nowhere, child. Oh, we're reading this book right here. This is book club. Big Girls Don't Cry by Connie Briscoe. We are on chapter 13. So next week we will pick up, and I didn't drop the link today, but I will drop the link next week. And next week we'll pick up with 13. Let me see. I'm going to try to get through the next 7 chapters. So 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, at least 17. But I'm going to try to get to 19. But at least chapter 17. Yeah, I was honestly surprised because I felt like you kind of got off the hook. Why are you back? Because I didn't get the impression. I got the impression that they were just going through the motions But when you found out he had a whole nother girlfriend over at Spelman, I'm like, well, bruh. And especially when it took you the whole 4 or 5 days to even call her. And that's why I say, and that's why I said Naomi is going to make you angry in this part of the book. She's going to make you angry in this part of the book because it's frustrating reading it, knowing, girl, you can do better. Like, you don't need, even if Dean wasn't around, girl, you could do better. This man ain't shit. But she's so caught up on the fact that he's going to be a doctor and he comes from a good family. There's a part of Naomi that was very shallow in this mindset. He comes from the right family. He's going to have a good job. He's going to be rich. He's going to, like, there was a part of Naomi that was holding on to, I mean, if we're going to be honest and we're going to call a thing, a part of her was holding on to Ralph for the potential of what Ralph was going to be. She wanted a house on the Gold Coast with a pool in the backyard, and she wanted to not have to work, right? There was a part of Naomi that was holding on to that fantasy too. So if we're going to be honest about Ralph not being full of you know what, then we got to be fair on the other side and say Naomi wasn't necessarily genuine either in what she was doing. Did we figure out when you're doing this? Child, I just got the book in the mail, Tracy. We ain't figured that out yet. I was thinking January though. I was thinking we would do it in beginning of the year, fresh start, new year, new me. You know how we always start, but we don't have to. We can talk about it. I can put a poll up and we can talk about it. But yeah, so if we're fair, we have to be fair and say Naomi wasn't perfect and Naomi wasn't doing everything that she should have been doing either. She put all of her self into this man. And she, between the grief for her brother, she let it go, and she was holding on to the potential of who Ralph was going to be. And she overlooked certain things, like the fact that this man wouldn't take you out in public. Like, that's not cool. Regardless of whether he was dating a whole nother woman or not, why are you allowing that to be okay? You know what I mean? So, yeah. Yeah. All right, y'all. I'm going to get off here so I can eat my dinner. And then we will do, I guess we'll do a tribe meeting. Y'all, it ain't a whole lot going on, but I guess we could do a little tribe meeting, honey. I guess we could do a tribe meeting, child. All right. I will see y'all in a little bit. Let me eat my dinner and I'll be back, child. Do it before the new year so we can start in January. Okay, that's a good point, Tracy. That's a good point to say do it before the new year so we can start. That's a good point. I got my book Saturday. I'm going to do an unboxing during the tribe meeting so we can talk about it, okay? We'll talk about it during the tribe meeting, Tracy. You keep me honest. All right, y'all. I'm out.